Trojan Talk. And our guest today is Mike Sadler, the athletic director at Colby Community College. Mike actually beginning his third year, I think, of work at Colby Community College as the athletic director. Am I right about that, Mike?
Well, June will be the start of year 3. It doesn't seem possible, but yep, it's coming up quickly.
What was that like for you? Because for those people that may not know, I mean, most people around here, I think, do, but you were coming home of sorts. I mean, you grew up here. You went to high school here. Your family has a deep tradition here. What was it? Were you excited about coming back to the home front?
Absolutely. I had not a long, but 8 years coaching baseball all throughout Kansas, and then spent a number of years at Neosho as in athletic administration. But then when the chance to come home and work for what I tell people is that my first love, the first team that I loved was Colby Trojans. My dream when I was a kid was to play baseball or basketball for the Trojans. So I got to do that. Now to get to come back and help lead an athletic department that I grew up idolizing, it's been fantastic. Having family around and just being home has been outstanding.
When you got here, your feet were in the fire right away. I remember, and you've had to hire some coaches right off the bat. It seemed like in your tenure as the athletic director at CCC, one of those hires was Rusty Elmore about a year ago at this time, a little later actually, I guess, but last summer. And Rusty Elmore, who would have known what we got when we got Rusty Elmore? Maybe you had an inside view of what you were hiring and who you were hiring, but has that not been a remarkable story?
Absolutely. In the process of hiring a men's coach last year, we had a ton of qualified applicants, but talking to people that I know and trust around the country, when I saw Rusty's name come up, that everyone just raved about his ability to recruit, his ability to coach, his ability to relate to players, and then getting him here on campus. And I don't think anyone would have expected to win the conference and qualify for the national tournament, but he's been outstanding, and took what the old Rusty, the joke I always make with people is when we went to hire a coach, we set out to find the best Rusty that we could find. And, he took the foundation that the coaches before him and that Rusty Groffel had put in place and just really ran with it. And, I'm excited to see what year 2 looks like under new Rusty.
Yeah, we had the old Rusty and we brought in the new Rusty, or the young Rusty. And the truth is, the old Rusty isn't really all that old.
Not at all.
And you're right. He did a great job. Well, no sooner did our basketball season end abruptly by not being able to go to the national tournament. Unfortunately, we'll touch on that in just a little bit. But you then had to find yourself a new women's basketball coach, as Antoine Scales, who turned our program around in 2 years' time, has moved on to Garden City, and now you had to find a new women's coach. Tell us a little bit about that process and who we've hired.
Yeah, and like you said, Antoine, in his 2 years, he did a great job taking a program that had really been struggling, and just each year the program took steps forward. So really appreciative of everything that Antoine did for the program. And at the end of the day, he had a better opportunity to go to Garden, and I hate to see him leave, but wish him nothing but the best. So then we set out to, once again, find the right person to fill the job. Had a lot of really qualified applicants, but James Cole will be our next head coach. He's had experience all throughout the country. Actually he's known Rusty for a long time. He got his start on the men's side. And when Rusty first got into coaching, James was an assistant at Jones County down in Mississippi, and took him to a national championship. And Rusty made the comment that he was coaching an NAIA school at the time. And when he called James about players, just as an NAIA school, calling a team that had just won the national championship, James returned his call, and they stayed in contact ever since. The story about James is that he can really, really recruit. He's been around, he's connected all throughout the country. I think that's part of what made Rusty so successful last year is, his connections all throughout the country. So James, kind of a similar background. He's been around really successful programs. and I'm really excited to get him to campus when we can actually get him to campus. But he's working now, and excited for what he's going to do with the program.
I mentioned briefly that, of course, our men's team had qualified for the national tournament first time in school history. We were also excited, and you can imagine, for Rusty Elmore to get to take a team to the national tournament and then not get to go, how disheartening that had to be. Had to be disheartening for you, had to be really disheartening for the players. And I told somebody just the other day, it was pretty disheartening for this old broadcaster. I've been doing this for 40-some years. I've been through the ups and the downs of Colby Community College basketball for decades. And to not get to go after we finally punched our ticket was a huge letdown, no doubt. But as the athletic director, what was that like when all of a sudden the decision was made by the conference and then nationally to suspend all athletics, everything, for the balance of the semester? And where are we at right now as relates to COVID-19 and where we go?
Well, there's a lot to unpack in that question, but in addition to being the AD at Colby, I also am the secretary treasurer for the JAC conference. I'm the men's region director for Region 6, and I'm on the men's basketball committee for the NJCA. So really, as all this was happening, I was, I don't remember the exact dates, whatever it was, mid-March. It was on the phone all day, every day, talking through what's happening. I can't think of another time in my life where the news has evolved so quickly, and you would sit in a meeting with the information in front of you, or what we're doing at the school level, or what we're doing within the conference athletically, or what we're doing nationally. And, an hour into the meeting, you make a decision, you walk out of that meeting and you look at your phone. And in that meantime, every piece of information you had to make your decision is now outdated. So it was evolving so quickly. It was, like you said, it was devastating, really, to have a great basketball season like that taken away, but equally as devastating for our baseball, our softball athletes, our track kids who were really just getting their seasons underway, to have those taken away. And, initially when the NJCAA made the decision to suspend athletics for the entire year, I guess the NCAA did it first. And when the NJCAA made that decision as well to cancel all spring sports, people thought, well, this feels like a really big reach. Now you fast forward a couple months and the entire country shut down. So now we're in that process of starting to figure out, just like everyone is, what the return looks like, both return to campus, within meetings here on campus and talking through that for the fall semester and what happens there. But I'm also involved because of the various roles that I'm on a task force at the conference level that we're trying to work through what that return to sport looks like within the conference. Like so much of this right now, there's really not answers. The situation is really unlike anything anyone's lived through. So as we try and make the best decisions with the safety of our students, our community, everyone in mind, we're trying to figure out what that looks like, and if fall sports are normal, like what we're used to seeing, or if they are, if it's delayed, if they end early. We're just really trying to put a plan A, plan B, plan C, and at this point, maybe D, E, and F of how we move forward with all of this. And, like I said, keep the safety of our athletes and our school in mind.
Would the word flexible be the right word? We have to be flexible.
That's the thing I keep telling people, and the amount of video conference, I do a lot of it anyway because I'm on some national things. So we did a lot of video conferencing before COVID-19. The amount of video conferences I've been on in the last month is staggering. I joke with someone that the NJCAA had meetings a couple weeks ago, and then the conference had meetings the next week. I think I spent just shy of 60 hours in a 2-week period on video conferences. But in those meetings, I keep stressing to people, the NJCAA stressed it, I keep stressing it to people, that we have to be flexible to understand that when we return to athletics, things are not going to look like what they have in the past. What your normal preseason looks like is probably not going to be realistic. So be flexible, understand that it may be we get the green light to return to practice and you've got 2 weeks and we're going to play our first game. Maybe there's no non-conference and we go straight to conference and play a condensed schedule. Being flexible and just kind of rolling with the punches is the ultimate thing. And really, I think this situation has forced the entire country to do that. And, if 6 months ago you talked about, at the Power 5 level, canceling the Division I basketball tournament or moving football to the spring possibly, or just any kind of flexibility with that, people would have thought you're crazy. And now, no suggestion really seems all that crazy. So the country as a whole and athletics really is opening their eyes to being flexible and kind of rolling with it. Take what comes at you.
Well, listen, we're going to stay in touch with you, and not just you, but your other coaches at CCC, and let the people kind of know what's going on throughout the summer months, and as we get ready for another school year next in August and September, hopefully. And yeah, we'll just flow as with the punches as they come, and we take one punch at a time, I guess, so to speak. Mike, thank you for taking the opportunity to talk a little bit about what's happening at Colby Community College as far as athletics is concerned and your role, and we'll talk again.
Well, I appreciate you doing this, Rich, and stay safe, and we'll work through this all together.
All right. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it very much.
Absolutely.